do that every once in a never. Our next performer is an aerospace engineer, and he's been on this stage before, but with the comedy troupe The 7 One-Liners. However, now, tonight, he is up doing his very first stand-up routine. Give it up for aerospace engineer Ryder Tam.
Hey, I'm an aerospace engineer. Wow, that was funny. I brought my notes here because I couldn't memorize that page, which I know is a concern, right? Because I work with national security and I can't memorize things. Yeah, so I contract for the Department of Defense to work on U.S. Air Force satellites, which means I'm not allowed to talk about what I do. So this is going to be quick. Aerospace wasn't quite what I expected it to be. Most days, I sit at a console and I push a button when I'm told to. And after 8 hours of that, I go out to bars and tell women I'm a rocket scientist. Yes. So then, it hasn't worked.
It's working!
Oh, it's working now. Thank you. So pickup lines are like rockets, though, because they often blow up on the launch pad. I know someone out there is like, my husband blows up on the launch pad. That's something different. It's hard to talk to people as a nerd, though, because we're kind of shy, right? Which might seem kind of weird in this setting. And so that's why I wore dark pants, though, so you can't tell when I wet myself. The only time I thought I was popular was when I started doing aerospace work, actually. Because a lot of people started calling me up, asking what I was doing, what I've been doing for the last few years, talking to my friends, just talking about me, which was cool, right? So I was like, I'm popular, and they said, you're getting a background check. There are a lot of tensions, though, between the US and Chinese space programs, and I thought that might be a concern when I started, because I'm half Chinese, so I'm half a person of interest. Yeah. My issue, though, is when I get nervous, I start joking around. So I'm in my interview with this guy, and he says, do you have any foreign Chinese contacts? He sounds really sinister, I don't know that. Do you have any foreign Chinese contacts? And so I said, well, I like Chinese food. What are you writing there? Furiously. What's your favorite color? Red. Oh. I mean blue. Blue and white. Blue, red and white and blue. So I kind of had to smooth things over after that debacle, right? So I vandalized a Panda Express. And now I only eat at Texas Roadhouse. So yeah, that's how I got my job. But I did get the job, and when I started as an intern. So that's where they take all the new people and they put them with all the other interns to learn together. So I looked around, that was funny too. So I looked around and I said, wow, I'm being sent to an intern camp. Just like my grandfather. That's bad. So we had a guy talking about conspiracies earlier, which was cool, right? Yeah, applause. I think you missed one, because my favorite conspiracy is the flat Earth conspiracy, because it's personal for me. I'm an orbit analyst, so I work with satellites going around the Earth. I guess that was obvious. So my problem with that, though, is that if someone is saying the Earth is flat, it's like saying what I do for a living doesn't exist. So when people do that, I like to go out and talk to other people in other professions and tell them that what they do doesn't exist. So I was on a flight last week, and I went up to the pilot and I said, hey buddy, did you know that this plane doesn't exist? And he said, how did you get in here? So then I tried it on a teacher, right? I was like, hey, did you know all these kindergartners, they don't exist? And she said, oh, thank God. Take a big old drink. No, but my biggest problem with the flat Earth theory is that it means I wasted a significant portion of my childhood trying to dig to China. said that, don't tell the NSA where I was trying to dig. But I mean, kids do that, right? We dig holes and we're trying to dig to China, and my dad is such a killjoy. Because he got all mad at my brother and I one time when we were trying to dig to China just because we dug into a water pipe and flooded the basement. And I think the point that he was missing though was that we actually succeeded. Because I was pointing at like, hey Dad, look, right on the side of the pipe, it says made in China. We did it. Yeah, but we got grounded anyway. My brother though, I love my brother. So his name is Gio, true story. Yeah, he's not here, that wasn't him, but. No, he'd probably be booing right now. So his name is Geo, and it means Earth, right? That's a term that comes up a lot in aerospace. Or in geology, we had a geologist talking about geo vibrations, right? Just a little uncomfortable for me. But I'm actually really familiar with that because geo vibrations is when my brother snores. Yeah. So when I go to work, and my brother comes up, because people will be saying like, there's so many gravitational perturbations around the geo belt. They sound weird. And I'm following along, right? Like gravitational perturbation. Are you calling my brother fat? And then they don't stop, they keep going. They're like, there's too much space junk around the geo belt. And then I walk away at that point, because talking about my brother's junk is way too personal. My parents are both English teachers. Yeah, some English people, right? Does anyone here speak English? Good. I'm just laughing for fun, okay. So I don't know where I came from with that, but it makes it a little difficult because they don't really understand what I do. So they'll call me up and be like, hey, tell us about work. So I'll tell them about work, and then they say, never tell us about work again. And then the NSA says, never tell them about work again. It's worse when they try and correct me though, because my mom does that. So I'll start telling her like, okay mom, so I'm working with an equation, and eccentricity, or E, is how circular an orbit is, and inclination, or I, is how tilted that orbit is with respect to the equator. And then she stops me, and she's like, Ryder, no, the variables are in the wrong order. Mom, what? Why? I before E, except that just seems. So now I just take the easy road and tell them I'm a prostitute. So did anyone see the Falcon Heavy launch? Elon Musk just launched yeah. Super cool, okay, all right. So Elon Musk just launched a car into space, if you didn't know that, which is super cool. You should check out the launch if you didn't see a video of that. But I thought the problem with that would be now they have to sell their cars is 30 miles per gallon space. 20 miles per gallon highway, 15 miles per gallon city. It's too long, right? But I think I figured out the real reason that he launched a car into space. Okay, so its projected orbit is going to swing by Mars. That's 33 million miles away from here. 33 million miles, right? Okay, now the IRS lets you claim on taxes 57 cents per mile. That's $20 million. But we wouldn't notice. Nice try, Mr. Musk. Plus, when he was buying insurance, you know, he'd have to be in there like, could I get liability and comprehensive coverage, and does collision cover asteroid collision? I have to ask the manager, it's a whole thing, yeah. There's a lot of tensions between the US, Chinese, and Russian space programs, though. And it's weird, though. It's like a frenemies relationship because we work on some projects together, like the International Space Station, but the whole time we're trying to spy on each other. And I always thought that would be awkward for the astronauts that have to work together, because they're going to have to be pretending that they know less than they actually do, so they don't give anything up. Like, I'm imagining the Russian guy over there is like, hey, so, what kind of capabilities do the US surveillance satellites have? Just laughing at my accent. I know, I don't think he's really Russian. What kind of capabilities, my friend? And, you know, the American guy would be like, oh, well, we got 4 gimbal thrusters mounted up. Oh. No, I don't know. I'm not sure. They float around, I think. What about yours? Oh yeah, no, me neither. I'm not even an astronaut. I work at Texas Roadhouse. They have to match him, right? Oh, me neither. I'm a flat earther. No, I was just hitchhiking, and some guy named Elon Musk picked me up. Next thing you know, yeah. Has anyone seen Gravity? Yeah. The movie, not the fundamental force. Concerning if you can see gravity. There's a lot of questionable physics in that movie, though. Let me give you an example. So the debris field in that movie that's gonna collide with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney and our understanding of physics. That's what's happening. They're working on the Hubble telescope. That's at 560 kilometers out into space. The debris field is from a satellite that's at 35,000 kilometers out there because it's a geostationary satellite. And if you don't know, geostationary is where my brother stays in one place for a long time. So the distance between those two orbits is more than 7 times the distance between here and Hawaii, which is coincidentally the same distance between Hollywood and reality. So the idea of those two things affecting each other when they're in such different orbits, it's like a traffic incident in France causing an orange chicken spill at your local Panda Express, which was actually caused by a vandal. Wink. I just said wink. I'm good. So in order to solve that, I've created what I'm calling the 5th fundamental force. So now we've got the gravitational force, the electromagnetic force, you can count along with me if you want, the strong force, the weak force, there we go, that guy is, and the movie plot force. So when George Clooney is hanging onto that tether there and he heroically lets go to save Sandra Bullock's life, what would actually happen is he would just kind of float there, looking like an idiot. Just to reel him back in. He was like, oh yeah, I'm an astronaut. I probably should have known that. But the plot force that explains it. The plot force explains why he was pulled out into space because someone had to die. The plot force explains why those two orbits didn't match up. The plot force explains why Stacy wouldn't go out with me last year. Because clearly I'm in a rom-com. Maybe, or tragedy, I don't know. According to the plot force, an object at rest tends to stay at rest until it's acted on by a sufficiently large Michael Bay script. It makes sense now, right? Yeah. I mentioned space debris before, though. So last week we had a Chinese satellite lose, its operators lost control of it and re-entered the atmosphere. I think it was Tiangong 1 or something. Probably pronounced that half wrong. So the odds of getting hit by space debris, it's like getting hit by lightning and winning the lottery, so pretty low. But everyone is asking. I've heard people ask me like, what are the odds that I'll get hit by space debris? But I like to ask that is, what are the odds that my work will follow me home? The odds are really low, unless the plot force is involved. Especially if you're in a horror movie. Because in that case, you run, get out of there! The only way you're going to survive in that case is if you form a budding romance with a quirky but attractive secondary character. Yeah. It's to save your life, so your husband will understand. All right, well, cool. So I'm off to Panda Express, Texas Roadhouse. That's all I got. Thank you very much.